What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to TWR. My name is Tavian. This is my world of reptiles, and I hope you are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. I apologize for the lack of content. It has just been a lot going on with me emotionally, and I just have not had the drive to really invest in this as much as I really wanted to. Honestly, I've made a bunch of videos, but then all of them are just not really what I wanted them to be, and so I've kind of scrapped them, and now I need to remake them because when I watched them, I'm not very happy with the way they turned out. Just because, like I said, I was not in the space for even making those videos, but I did it, and so it showed. And so I'm tossing those, and I'm going to go ahead and remake them in the best way that I can, and get back to getting some content out here regularly. So I'm going to spend the weekend just kind of busting out a bunch of videos, redoing the ones that I've already done to make them a bit better than something that I can actually be proud of. So I'm going to be doing that, and again, I apologize for that. And I know that I did that live, and I was supposed to put out a video about the newest snake that I got, and then I did that, but like I said, was not happy with it, and so I just scrapped that whole project. But so that's coming, so don't worry about it, I promise. And then when I was going to redo it again, it turned out that it was in shit, so was not able to do that. But that is coming, so don't worry about it. I apologize again. But today, you guys see we're hanging out here, and I have got my two frogs out. They are in these little containers here. They're little nano setups. I have my chocolate Pac-Man frog in this one and my tomato frog in this one. And they are both getting upgraded today. The tomato frog itself has been showing signs of being stressed at night. It just kind of hops around and flails itself around all over its enclosure, which is my first sign that it is stressed and is requiring more space. So I am upgrading him, and since I'm upgrading that one, I decided I'm going to also upgrade my Pac-Man frog, because even though it's not displaying stressful things, it's just about that big, too big for this, and so it's time for them to upgrade. And I'm going to be upgrading them into these faunariums by Exoterra. I think this is an older model. They put out a newer model that's got little sliding doors or whatever on the top for feeding. But I didn't really need all that. I just needed something bigger. So I have the older model here, and so I'm going to be upgrading those guys into these. So figured I would talk a little bit about my experience with caring for these animals. Pac-Man frogs and tomato frogs are really considered to be kind of if you're looking for, let's say, if you're looking for something that's super exciting, right? You're looking for something that you're going to see a lot of movement on, a lot of feeding, something like you might even get out of dart frogs, then Pac-Man frogs or tomato frogs are really not the frog for you. They're pretty ambush-like creatures. They just kind of sit and do not much of nothing. More so with the Pac-Man frog than the tomato frog. Pac-Man frogs doesn't really do much. Now, when I first got into the Pac-Man frogs, a lot of things that was just said generally was that you're pretty much going to own a box of dirt. And it did seem like that for a little bit when I first got this guy. And I didn't have much going on. When you see a lot of Pac-Man enclosures, you don't often see, a lot of people keep them in the tubs or whatever with some soil, and that's it. But even when they don't really have a lot going on in the enclosure. It's mostly just some soil and maybe a water dish. But in my experience, when I first got my Pac-Man frog, it definitely spent a mass amount of time just hiding away, not under the substrate, and I really was just owning a box of dirt. However, I did decide I was going to try to experiment with seeing with that behavior, and when I first got these guys in and had them in this, I had put in some fake plants just to kind of create just a coverage over the top, so the plants just kind of stuck up mostly around the top and just covered the general top layer of the enclosure, so it kind of felt like when it did surface, it was still just kind of under a tree or whatever, and that actually did change the behavior of the Pac-Man frog. It stopped burrowing as much and definitely stayed out in view at all times, and so I thought that was a really good thing. And the same thing with the tomato frog. It also spent a lot of time just burrowed away because I just had soil in it with not much else, and when I put the fake plants in, it actually did start coming out. Actually, the tomato frog started to display some behaviors that I wasn't really expecting. I expected the tomato frog and the Pac-Man frog to have similar behaviors of just kind of sit and do not much of anything. However, the tomato frog, once I put those fake plants in there, I did catch it oftentimes just kind of up on top of the plants. Like somehow it clambered its way up to the top of the plants. It would just kind of be sitting up top, like in the top corner of the enclosure, on top of the plants, just posted up, relaxed and chilling, and sleeping or whatever. And so I thought that was really interesting behavior, because it seems like tomato frogs are often described as just kind of terrestrial creatures that just kind of stay in the ground or burrowed. And so to see the behavior of that particular animal just kind of clambering up to a little bit more height and being comfortable with just sitting up there was really interesting. And so with this new enclosure, when I switch him over into a bigger enclosure, I'm going to continue to explore with that a little bit. I'm going to try to create a little bit more height. I'm just trying to give some spaces where if he does want to continue that behavior of kind of clambering up and posting up on something, they will be able to. I'm going to probably put some more cork pieces in here than I will for the Pac-Man frog, just to try to observe that behavior a little bit more and learn a little bit more about the tomato frog's behavior in comparison to the Pac-Man frog's behavior, because there definitely seems to be a lot more activity happening with my tomato frog versus my Pac-Man frog. So that's going to be happening. Now, as I said, when I first got these guys, I did have fake plants in there, but I did want to explore with real plants. And I know that a lot of people are saying, you know, maybe not so much with live plants because of the way that they burrow, but I figured, you know, if they're not burrowing as much because they're feeling secure with the plantage, then maybe I could do some live plants. So I ended up just taking a few little clippings from some of my other plants. In my Pac-Man frog enclosure, I just have like a kind of tiny little clipping of a pothos that is starting to grow off in there, and another piece of a Transcencadia, or the wandering Jew plant, which is a term that I'm not sure people are still using, but either way, I have a piece of that in there with my Pac-Man frog. So far, they have not dug it out. It's actually growing in there. It has rooted, and so that's great. I'm going to transfer those same plants over into the new enclosure as well, and probably put a few more in there, hoping that as it grows and fills in, it will create that just kind of like sense of overhang and sense of security for the Pac-Man frog, so it does not feel the need to continue to burrow. So I'm going to be doing that, and I've enjoyed having live plants in there, so it's going to be some obviously low light needing plants, so that pothos, and like I said, the Transcencadia. And I'm also have the same thing with that Transcencadia plant happening in with my tomato frog, and that's taking off in there and doing really well. And even with, and since he hasn't been burrowing as much at all, the plants are doing well. They're established and they're looking great. So I'm going to transfer those plants also into this new setup for him, or them. I don't honestly know the gender of either one of these frogs, but but there we go. So I don't want to keep rambling. I'm just rambling, but these are all the things that I have experienced while taking care of these animals behavior-wise. I'm excited to get them into these enclosures so I can continue to watch their behaviors and learn a little bit more about them. Pac-Man frogs definitely seem to be given that typical Pac-Man frog behavior, just kind of sits there, but with some coverage and with some decor, it does not feel the need to burrow often. So if you're thinking about getting a Pac-Man frog, but your drawback for that is because of the fact that you just don't want to be taking care of a box of dirt and not see the animal, just maybe think about putting some extra things in there, some extra plants, some fake plants or real plants, whatever you're choosing to do, to create a sense of more than just an empty mud pit. You know, you want to provide more, and then I bet you'll see a lot more of your animal less buried and more out in the open. So that's just something that I figured I would share with y'all today for anybody who's thinking about getting either one of these animals but have been like, I don't want to take care of a box of dirt of the animal that I can't see. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get these set up. I do have a huge thing of Coco Core expanded or Eco Earth here. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all, get this packaging off, get them set up, get their plants in, and get them transferred into their new homes. And then I will show you all what it looks like when it is getting done. So yeah, we'll be back in a moment. Alright, so we are back, and I have finished, for the most part, their enclosures. I definitely want to get a few more cork pieces or something for the Pac-Man enclosure. It's just a little bit barer than I want it to be, but it's going to be great. It's cool. It looks great for now, and I will add more to it as time goes by. But so let me just go ahead and turn this camera around so I can show you what it looks like so far. Alright, so this here is the Pac-Man enclosure. I just have a couple of live plants here. This is like a lipstick plant. I have a pothos right there, and then a couple pieces of Transcancadia, which will eventually grow up and trail out to create more coverage. And then there is the chocolate Pac-Man frog right there, seemingly looking like he's trying to get out of the brand new enclosure, but I'm sure he will settle down with time, and if not, then I will definitely just need to hurry up and get more cork to fill in here. But he literally just got in, so he's probably just going to take a little bit to settle and relax. But yeah, that is my Pac-Man enclosures. As you can see, there's no water bowl. I have offered water bowls before, never seen any sign of him using it. Mostly they just absorb a lot of their water through their skin, so I just make sure that I give him a couple of mistings, at least twice a day, once in the morning, once again before I go to bed, and I keep the soil nice and wet and moist so that regularly can just absorb some of the moisture from there as well. So if you're wondering why there is no water bowl, I just don't keep one in there because there's just no point. But I mean, if it makes y'all feel super uncomfortable, I suppose I could put a water bowl in there, but he's not had a problem without one so far. Moving on over. This here is the tomato frog enclosure all set up. He does have a water dish because I have actually seen him in it. So I kept the water dish. Just got a little piece of Transcancadia here. I got some cork. I said I wanted to create a little bit more upper space. I still want to get a little bit more cork space, but I'm hoping this is being elevated a little bit, that I'll maybe catch him hanging out up top on here, or he can hide back behind it. Same thing was over here. He can get up on top of it, or he can hide behind it, which is exactly where he's at right now. As you can see, hiding behind that cork bark, but it's looking really good. And I want to add another plant or something in here. I gotta look around my house and see which plants I have and which plants I actually want to put in here with this guy. But yeah, so this is the tomato frog enclosure. I really like it a lot, and I'm glad to have gotten them out of those smaller enclosures. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lids on these and set them back in the room and let them settle into their new spaces. Yes, I do need to do something more with this Pac-Man frog enclosure. It's just too bare. Not that they need a whole bunch, but I think it will create maybe even a little less stress for him if there was more in it, especially going from something so tiny like those there into something so big like this here. So I'm gonna have to fill this in just a little bit more for the Pac-Man frog to make it feel a little secure, maybe even a little bit more for the tomato frog too. But either way, they are upgraded. They're no longer in tiny enclosures, and that is the whole point. All right, so there it is, y'all. That's the upgrades for my Pac-Man and my tomato frog. If you want to see more frog content, be sure to hit the like button, drop a comment, let me know. I can go a little bit more in depth about these individual frogs and where they come from. There's just not a whole lot to say about them, but I can go a little bit more deeper into their care if that's something that people are interested in. But yeah, so that is my Pac-Man and my tomato frog all rehoused, and now I've got these two awesome enclosures that are now open, and I've got a couple of tarantulas that really need to be upgraded, need to be rehoused into bigger enclosures. Those might be a little bit big, but they'll grow into them. So that's going to be the next video I'm doing. I will be showing off my spiders, my whole spider little corner, and rehousing a couple of tarantulas. So look out for that next video coming out sometime after this one comes out. So yeah, you all take care. Love yourselves. Love your loved ones. Love your reptiles. And you all keep spreading those herps.